Asclepius was the god of medicine in Greek mythology. He had two daughters named Hygeia and Panacea. Our word hygiene is derived from Hygeia. She symbolizes the road to health by preventing disease and to live without exaggeration regarding food and drink. Panacea accounted for the knowledge of the earth and medical plants. Thus one could cure and alleviate disease. Hippocrates lived 2500 years ago in Greece. He is called the father of medicine. Hippocrates has given rise to the Hippocratic Oath that summarizes the responsibility of the physician to the patient. For him, human life is important. At the time, humans were well aware of how the environment and lifestyle affected the well-being of humans. When the Roman Empire began to grow, much of the knowledge was transferred from Greece to Rome. In ancient Rome, people thought that cleanliness was important. They emphasized the importance of a healthy life with gymnastic and swimming. Even eating and drinking moderately was important. These ideas were forgotten for a long time in the Western world after the Roman Empire fell. In ancient China, it was said that a good doctor does not heal, but teaches the people not to get sick. This is also the basic idea in today's preventive health work. In Sweden, there are not many written sources of care before the Christian era, but we think that they handled the care of the sick in their homes with the help of wise women and own decoction of plants. To keep the population down and to ensure that food would be enough, they sometimes placed sick and even some healthy children and old people into the woods to be fed to the wolves. They also sacrificed people to the gods. This practice was taken far into modern times in some communities. During the year 1000, when Christianity came to Sweden, we began to build monasteries. They planted herbs in the monastery garden to produce herbs, and they collected the knowledge on how to cure the sick. Much of this knowledge is the same as we use today. They took the sick and elderly into the monasteries, and those were cared for by monks and nuns. When Gustav Vasa, actually called Gustav Eriksson, became king, he changed the state religion in Sweden in the year 1527. Before we were Catholics, but now we should be Protestants. They began to tear down the monasteries, destroyed vegetable gardens, and expelled the monks and nuns. Thus a lot of the knowledge about diseases and how to cure the sick disappeared. In the 1600s came the plague and the cholera. These quickly spread across Europe and also to Sweden. The care that was conducted in the plague houses was very poor. There worked old drunken women without education. They worked for food and shelter. We are approaching the Enlightenment. In the 1700s we got science. Reason and progress became matchwords. Now you understand that man can influence his own life and that suffering and misery is not at all predetermined by God. It happens a lot during this time in medicine. Olof Rudbeck discovers the lymphatic system. Carl Linnaeus, who was best known for the division of plants' sexual system, was a professor of medicine and natural history at Uppsala University. He grouped bacteria under chaos, and Sweden became a world leader in the field of medicine. Smallpox vaccination began in the late 1700s. It was the English physician Edward Jenner who came up with the idea to graft vaccination with cowpox and thus create protection against the dreaded disease smallpox. Vaccination comes from the word vaxa, which is Latin for cow. In the 1800s, a lot happened in healthcare. Charles Darwin came out with his book The Origin of Species, in which he argued that man was not in the image of God. Now it was difficult for religion to claim that everything was predetermined, and for example that vaccination was against God's will. It was now the modern medicine emerged. Immunization with attenuated bacteria was discovered by Louis Pasteur, and Robert Koch figured out the reason for why big epidemic affected people by streamlining bacteria. In 1929, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, and the rest is pretty much well known. And besides from improved surgery, better medical devices, and more knowledge about DNA and the evolution of virus, called viral evolution, we are back to personal hygiene to prevent diseases once again. Thank you for listening. Take care.